Okay, hey, welcome to the Whiskey Show. This is our inaugural episode. I am Ryan Balas. I'm here with a very special person.
Alec Balas. We have the same last name. It's ironic that we met and
we were both at a grocery store.
Yep.
And I was just looking for some chips and salsa.
And I was holding a can of salsa.
The last salsa at the grocery store, would you believe it?
And we just and he said, "Can I be the chip to your dip?" And I was like, "What's your last name?"
last bag of chips. That's the thing.
That is because I was going there and you were coming here, and you said you shook it. He shook it and smiled and said, "I got the last one."
And so we met. We ended up hanging out.
Yep.
Eating chips and salsa.
Yeah, all day.
And just a ton of chips and salsa. And at the end of the day, I was like, "Well, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Ryan Balas."
And I said, I shook his hand. I actually, to be honest, I used the wrong hand. I do that sometimes.
Very embarrassing.
Extremely embarrassing. But it was okay because it was outshined by the fact that I had the same last name.
He paused. So I was like, "Ryan Balas." And he was like, "Alec Balas."
Yeah.
And we realized we're brothers.
We're the Balas Brothers.
We're the Balas Brothers. So, and we love whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our whole family loves whiskey.
They do.
But most importantly, our dad. And for many, many years, we didn't know how to talk to our dad because he's just like a quiet guy.
Yeah. And that included the difficulty of getting him a gift for Christmas or his birthday or for Father's Day.
Yeah. Or really any holiday at all.
And for many years, as a lot of people gift their fathers, he got Lowe's gift cards and Home Depot gift cards because some dads fix stuff in the home.
Our dad fixes stuff.
And likes tools.
But he suddenly, kind of what felt like out of nowhere, started working down in Kentucky. He lives in Michigan. But he started doing these jobs down in Kentucky for his work. And he started drinking whiskey. And like, our dad didn't drink our whole life. And suddenly, this guy's talking about like delicious bourbons and has like an opinion about it.
Yeah, and I remember at the time we were both people who enjoyed an old fashioned.
Yeah.
And so
I kept a bottle of Maker's Mark around the house.
And if it was
Woodford.
Yeah, if it was a nicer bottle, you'd have Woodford.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay. Yeah, I vibe with that. I'm connecting.
And we had started learning about whiskey too. We're filmmakers and we were working on a film down in Kentucky and someone had gifted us like some really nice bourbon. So we started just sort of accidentally drinking nice whiskey.
Yeah, we were sort of just, in Kentucky, you're probably, as far as you can throw a baseball, that close to whiskey. So
yeah.
I don't think that's a saying, but it could be now.
As far as you throw a baseball.
So as far as you can throw a baseball, like me on average,
not a good thrower.
Not a great thrower, not a bad thrower. That radius, that's how far, that's the saying. That's how far you're close to whiskey when you're in Kentucky. And so naturally we were, and the filmmaker who was from Kentucky had some at the house we were staying at. So we drank it. We all kind of fell in love with whiskey at the same time. Devin, our middle brother, professional drinker. He was
more of a fireball fella.
He tagged right in. Yeah, he was like, okay, we're going to be drinking better stuff. We're going to be learning some stuff about whiskey. Let's do it.
So as a family, we all fell in love with whiskey. Bourbon first. And now Alec and I sort of leaning towards rye as New Yorkers, East Coasters, where rye has originated. And that's kind of brings me to today's whiskey. It's a New York rye, straight rye, at I think what is my favorite distillery, perhaps in the country.
In the world?
I haven't been to every distillery in the world, so I can't say for sure. But this is one of my absolute favorite places. And it happens to be in the Hudson Valley in New York State. Whew. Yes. Copper C.
God, it smells.
I know.
So
just pour me some so I can drink a little before I start getting too crazy about all this. Thank you. Oops.
Yeah. What are Copper C?
Copper C. Right out of the gate. I'm gonna nose it real quick. Tell you a little bit about it, and then let's get into the bottle.
Get nose deep in that glass.
I'm getting so nose deep in this thing.
In that what? The glass.
The glass. Nose deep in that glass. All right.
You know, you age, but do you really get older?
We are not like a fine whiskey. Okay. I just started drinking it before I even talked about the nose. I was like, hey, hold on, 5 minutes.
I got like straight caramel sauce on the nose and like.
I smell a field.
Well,
like
in this one, it's more open.
Field.
At the top of the bottle, it kind of, it's almost like a Glencairn. It narrows that, and I can smell more.
Yeah.
But this, when you get a lot of like that grass, rye, it smells like a rye field.
And the taste is incredible out of the gate. I mean, it's just like a sweet, sultry, lustful rye.
And with that tingle.
Yeah. I would let it spank me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
100%.
I mean, there's, to be fair, that's a pretty wide group, but it's definitely at the top.
So
top of the
Copper Sea is a smaller operation. It's a farm based in New Paltz, New York, just on the other side of the river from Poughkeepsie. Sort of in that mid Hudson Valley, probably about an hour and a half outside of New York City. It's just like essentially a barn.
A few barns, right?
A few barns at this point. It's a farm. It's a working farm. And
the distiller lives on the property.
The distiller lives on the property. A fellow named Christopher Breyer, and who happens to be I don't know what you call it, an elder boxer. He's not an elderly man, but he's like a.
He boxes.
He boxes, but in like the middle age.
Well, yeah, I think
tournaments.
Because boxing's a young man's game. He's not by any means a super young guy. If you saw him, you'd be like, "That's a young guy."
Yeah,
but he's not like a young.
Yeah,
he's not a
young boxer. He's not like a young up and coming boxer. He's a dad who boxes.
Yeah, I mean, he would be thinking about retirement if he was boxing.
You think so?
Well, I'm just thinking about
going for that championship.
Well, I'm just thinking about some of the boxers. Mayweather, for example, I think he's 40 something, so he's retired. So I think Chris, he's anywhere between 30 and 1,000 years old.
Yeah, that's the thing about Copper Sea. They use what people call heritage methods, which is like an old school way of making whiskey. He uses a legitimate fire.
Yeah, true fire
copper pot. There's
open
like fire under it. What is it called? Say that again.
It's the wild fermentation. Open into it's in a barn with open doors on either side, so you
can see the bubbling fermentation happening, and then you can see the fire under this big copper pot. And since we last spoke to him, he was planning on an upgrade. Actually, he was going to have maybe the largest fire copper pot in the country or the world or something. Yeah. But he's part of a group of folks who founded this sort of rye whiskey style that's exclusive to New York called Empire Rye. It started off with a group of 6 folks who made this thing called Empire Rye, which is based on using all New York grains.
Yeah, and you can tell if it's on a bottle because it'll have this little symbol here on the side. It's their logo. And
I wanted to start the whiskey show. I wanted our inaugural episode to really focus on Copper Sea because they're truly like an independent craft whiskey maker, making maybe some of the best whiskey in the world. Mostly led by Christopher Breyer, who, like, in a film term, he's like an auteur. He's got this like vision, and his vision is not chasing money. That's for damn sure.
No.
But it's chasing quality and craft personship, and it's very reflective. This is not only is this a delicious rye whiskey, but it is deeply unique.
I want to take a bath in it.
Oh my God, I would bathe in this stuff, no problem.
I got a That's got to be good for you. Yeah.
What are a few things you'd bathe in?
I wouldn't do milk.
Fuck no.
That would make I don't like that.
Yeah.
See, I also want whiskey.
Yeah, I'd bathe in. I'm talking about legitimately. What would you bathe in?
Oh, well, I don't.
Because I'm freaked out. So like if I take a bath, I really clean the tub.
Water.
Yeah, water for sure, but I don't like the little floating things in there.
What's floating in your tub?
Yeah, I don't know, stuff that comes off.
I don't like those tumbleweeds of hair that are floating.
The things that come off of my body. No, I like a nice clean bath. I could never bathe in a dirty bath.
No, of course not.
But I would bathe, like other things I think it has to be see-through sort of. So whiskey, I would legitimately sit in. I bet you'd probably die.
Why?
You'd probably get alcohol poisoning.
Drunk? You think you could get drunk?
It would go because it would get in your butt for sure. Which, people who butt chug, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what butt chugging is, but it's you take a shot through your butthole.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. Not recommended.
I think it's called boofing. What it's really.
I'm pretty sure that's something else.
It may be.
That might,
you know what? Just don't put alcohol up your butt. It is not recommended.
No, but I would assume that some of it would enter you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
You would be
skin.
Whiskey would enter you for sure.
You'd probably get drunk if you sat in if you bathed in whiskey.
Yeah, don't do that. I
No,
guess.
not recommended. We're not recommending it. God, no.
No.
I also think at this point of the show, something I need to say that our lawyers recommended is that this is not a factual journalistic program. This is a talk show.
This is an op-ed.
These are our an op-ed. Yeah. This is our opinions. So we encourage people to disagree with us. But or to
agree with us.
Or to agree with us. That's always better. That's way better. But we're not trying to give you exact information on things. So if you find yourself being like, I don't know about that, that's good. Do your own research.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Quick disclaimer.
All right. What do you get out of this when you're sipping this?
I get that grassy. It's hard. I see like a rye grass covered in caramel.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's sauce, not like a hard caramel.
The grassiness is so interesting because I feel like it tastes like the farm, like the Copper Sea farm smells.
Absolutely. I mean, it does. Yeah. I mean, they're making rye whiskey a lot.
I can see Christopher Breyer on his big tractor just carrying shit from one end to the other.
Yeah.
I get brown sugar for sure. I get that. It's like a grassy brown sugar. I get a little bit of that caramel, but I pick up caramel, but not that often.
Yeah.
It's got bite like rye does, but oftentimes when you're drinking something that's like a bourbon with rye in the mash bill, they call like that spice, right?
Like
you
a
call
high
it
rye.
the spice. A high rye bourbon would be like, ooh, it's a little spicy. This is certainly spicy, but not in that way.
No, I mean,
It's sort of softer.
There's a tingle, but I think what happens when you drink, for instance, a lot of
If you drink, you get a tingle.
yeah,
I get a little tingle.
But a lot of Kentucky-based rye whiskeys just hit that threshold of 51%, which makes sense because it's a smaller category than bourbon, so they want to transition people into rye whiskey more smoothly. Yeah, but if you're drinking Empire Rye or anything in that range, which Empire Rye has to be at least 75% rye grain in the mash bill. And so it changes the rye notes entirely. So I think it's way grassier, a lot less spicy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that spiciness, I'm curious to talk to a distiller about this. Maybe we can ask Chris if that spiciness comes from the interaction with the higher corn percentage. But when it's in this form, it's just totally different. Like any notes you have about rye whiskey, I feel like are completely different when you're working in the higher percentages.
Yeah. And we're also talking about like a New York rye. Like this is farmed down the street, right? They're getting their grains literally probably walking distance from most of the time from where they're distilling. So it's like, I just feel like it's like fresher in a way. And so like maybe something like that freshness is what adds a soft
maybe
characteristic.
Herbaceous or something.
Something else that's interesting with rye is that it doesn't need to really be aged as long as bourbon to be good. Like, yes, an 8-year rye is going to be really enjoyable, but also you will find some really great 2-year ryes.
Well, I think, it comes back down. That's 100% right. And that is different than bourbon. Like you're going to get better bourbon 4 years plus. But it does come down to the mash bill, the crafts person, the distiller making it, and that product that comes off the still, that has to be good before you start aging it, because those are the things you can really control. I feel like, and if you do those things properly and correct and then yeah, 2-year rye could be incredible.
When what was your first time going to Copper Sea?
My first time going to Copper Sea was with you, Mom, Dad, and Sam.
Yeah.
And it was late at night.
It wasn't late at night. I remember now.
Yeah.
It felt like late at night, but it was like 5:30 because it was in the winter.
It was 5 o'clock, but it was like pitch black out.
And cold.
And very cold.
We didn't even know if they were open because you're literally pulling into like a dark
Yeah, but they were. It's like you shouldn't be in there, but you open the door and then it's like, this nice soft yellow light. And I forget the woman's name, but she was there.
Yeah.
And she's like, hi. And then I actually wasn't feeling, I think I was driving, so I didn't drink anything. The thing is though, I had been introduced to Copper Sea before that.
Yeah.
At when we filmed at Copper Sea, or when we filmed at that meeting they had for the Empire Rye Association.
Yeah, we made a documentary called Fire, Water, and Grain: The Story of Empire Rye, and we went to one of their first meetings. When they were sort of introducing each other to the hey, I know we had this experiment we talked about 4 years ago, 6 years ago. Here's what we got.
Yeah, post-COVID, end of COVID.
We went to a meeting. You tried some Copper Sea there.
And I have, in full transparency, I hated it. I was
really,
yeah.
In that moment, you hated it.
In that moment, I hated it.
It was their single barrel Empire Rye.
Yeah, I believe that was our first actual shoot day on the film.
Yeah.
And going into the movie, I didn't like rye whiskey as a rule of thumb for my life, which you shouldn't close yourself off to things like that as stubbornly as I was. But I mean, through experience, through drinking more of it, through the experiences at the distilleries we had, I came to love it. So I could drink rye whiskey all night. I don't stick to it, but like rye whiskey in a Manhattan, rye whiskey in an old fashioned is my preferred whiskey style that goes in those. Now I experiment and have fun with it, and whatever's available is always good too. But
Christopher Breyer said something that I think we should note, which is, and he is laid down the gauntlet. He said, if you've not had a Manhattan made with rye, with a
75% and up percentage rye.
If you haven't had a Manhattan like that, you've not had a Manhattan.
Yeah.
I agree with him, because I think that's the intention of the Manhattan. You can have a variation of the Manhattan, but that's the intention of that cocktail.
Well, that was the first iteration of it in history, so you might as well have it however you want, right? That's the Burger King. Have it your way. but it's, why not have it how it was first initially intended to be, and then go, it's fun to, I love cocktails. I really do. And so it's like, it's fun. That experimentation is
you should
totally
play around. I mean, that's the whole part of that's what we learned about whiskey, is that we never took it that seriously in the beginning. I mean, we took it seriously. We liked to drink it and we cared about what we were learning, but it's like a lot in many ways in food and drink. It's sort of like this serious, snooty to some extent. Even Kentucky's got this established feeling and aesthetic. And I think we've just sort of tried to go against the grain, no pun intended, a little bit, and just have fun with it. Because it's legitimately, in addition to being poetic and intelligently crafted, it's just fun. It's what brings life out of you.
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about internet culture, or anyone who's got their nose up in the air about whiskey, that it's way more fun to have fun with it.
Yeah. That just reminded me of something. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. That was just we've ebbed and flowed of especially as you first learn about it. It's so exciting. It's easy to get too passionate about it and be like, no, this is right and this is wrong. This is how you drink it. This is how you buy it. This brand is best. This brand's not. It's like, you like what you like and you drink it how you drink it. It's more important than any piece of information about this whiskey is the people you drink it with and the experiences you have.
100%. And that absolutely plays into how you will remember it. And what it tastes like is it tastes like the experience you had drinking it.
And that's potentially why we love Copper Sea. I actually have a really important question for you really quickly before that next point.
Yeah.
for me, local whiskey scared me, and I had bad experiences for a long time.
Well, craft whiskey wasn't that good for a while.
Well, that's what I'm like from making this movie and from before that, like being introduced to craft whiskey in general to now, how has local whiskey in your mind, your perception changed?
Well, first of all, I almost always chase craft whiskey now. So like I was at a bar the other night. It's like a local place called the Governor's Tavern. It's the kind of perfect name for a local spot here in the Hudson Valley. And I wanted a whiskey on the rocks, bourbon on the rocks. And I asked what they had, and they gave me the sort of your basic selection that you'd find at a local place, like you'd expect. And then they had Hill Rock. Which is actually just a couple miles away from where the studio is, and it's another local like farm-based distillery. And I was like, I'll have Hill Rock, of course. I might not have done that necessarily a couple years ago. I don't know. I tend to explore. I tend to want like local stuff, but like, the problem is that, like, especially with new whiskey, even the rye, they tend to taste a bit yeasty or bready, and some people try to like flip that and be like, "Ooh, the breadiness is so interesting." No, it's not. It's just not ready. I recognize that unless they are white labeling their bourbon and sourcing it from someplace, they got to start with young bourbon and they got to start selling as soon as something is palpable. They got to start selling to stay alive,
palatable. Yeah,
and so craft. Whiskey for a while, it was illegal for a long time in lots of places, and there were laws that made it hard to make small farm craft whiskey. Now in New York, Empire Rye is the thing that cracked that all open. But for the most part, like it helped make Empire Rye possible with some of the laws that people from that group helped enact.
Yeah, rye whiskey wasn't illegal. It was just like small brands.
But making craft farm distilleries were almost impossible to have because of the costs of licensing and that kind of thing.
And the inability to sell on location.
Yeah. So you have these places that are, just starting out and they're working out their thing. But now we're at a place where like the Empire Ryes, for example, they're like 6 years, 7 years out. Like they're making exceptional rye. And so like that's going to be my first choice almost always when I go someplace. Absolutely. Like I think craft, and it's not like I'm trying to be anti-corporate whiskey. I love Old Forester, one of the biggest, one of the biggest whiskey makers in the world. I love it. It's great. They've honed it in. But if I can choose craft, my spirit is more. The Holy Ghost moves me towards this stuff. Well, before we go on,
I almost poured more of that.
You were going to pour more of that. I knew you were. I want to try this other Copper Sea offering called Big Angus.
Yes.
I want to read this because I think it's actually really important. This is from Copper Sea. It's a much smaller bottle. I think they do an annual release of this. It's very, very limited. This is from 2022, batch number 1. This Big Angus honors Angus MacDonald, Copper Sea's founding master distiller. We use 100% green malt, unkilned, sprouting Hudson Valley barley, fresh from our malt floor. We we ferment in wood tanks and distill in direct fire copper pot stills. This ancient method produces a whiskey as robust as Angus himself. Now, Angus has passed away, and he's the one who brought Christopher Breyer to the Hudson Valley.
Yep.
Thank you, Angus. Wherever it is you are, my friend, we're excited to try this green malt whiskey in your honor.
And in a lot of ways, when you read about Angus or see him in an interview, you see the through line of Chris's ethos.
Yeah. He had dreamt up, from my understanding, this idea of the farm distillery heritage methods maybe in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
Like it was something he knew.
Either way, it was like two kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So it's like, if he had like sort of thought of it first, early on the concept, Chris was the perfect person to partner with. And I don't know, when, like if they started it together, they met online. They have a very interesting story, but they started making whiskey together, and this is like just one of those far out.
It's as grassy gets.
It's like if you chewed on grass.
Yeah.
in a good way,
It's
like
delicious.
in a whiskey way.
It's so interesting. That's the thing about it.
And the finish on it is so strange.
Yeah. It's really grassy. I don't know how else to explain it in such a good way, like grassy, like caramely grass. What I love about Copper Sea, and I know we're waxing poetic about them, a lot for this, but is that it's just I'm drinking something unexpected, and that's what I want. To go further with your questions, craft to me is it's like unknown territory. It's like, hey, I know what to expect when I drink bourbon. When I'm pouring a rye that's from New York State, I don't know.
Well, they need to differentiate themselves, but through that differentiation comes the possibility that you make something that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And when you drink it and it surprises you, it's unique and it's delicious.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get behind. We're not sponsored by anybody.
No.
But you initially were the preacher for Copper Sea, like person to person. When something's so good, it just travels between people.
Well,
and then now I'm hitting the streets. Like this is incredible whiskey.
Yeah.
If you can get it.
Yeah. I was gonna say I feel like I kind of want to like end this episode on my first experience.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Going there. So I was living in New York City at the time, Queens, and had just met my now partner, my girlfriend, and we decided we were gonna go upstate, which is sort of a romantic getaway for the weekend. We were gonna stay in a little cottage, a little house, and we're driving up, and we're going through New Paltz, this hippie little college town, and we're just on a country road, and I see this like sign and some barrels, and I'm like, what is that? And then like pull over. I think that's a distillery. And so then at the time, their tasting room was like in the smallest shack kind of barn that they had, and I remember it's kind of amazing. Now I probably spend more than this, but at the time the bottles were like, oh, it's $100. I don't think I can do that because who pays $100 for whiskey?
Yeah.
And now, of course, for Copper Sea, I'd pay double. But not that you should, but I would. Yeah. I had some of the wildest tasting whiskey of my life in this little tiny tasting room that I believe Christopher Breyer's partner or someone was the bartender for. And that was it. They were just like kind of a seasonal little farm spot. And it just like stuck with me. It's like that little place on a country road in the middle of the Hudson Valley, just doing their own weird, wacky whiskey thing. I was like, that is like that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing the experience of it, And then the second time, like, I don't know, a year later or whatever, I drove by, it was in the winter. And I pulled up and there was all these chickens everywhere. And Christopher Breyer comes running out. He's like, hey, can I help you? And I'm like, and everything's closed. I'm like, yeah, I was hoping to try some stuff. He's like, well, we're like closed for the season because they were seasonal. And he's like, but I think you could buy it down the street or something. Or he's like, yeah, you have credit card or cash or he's like, couldn't sell me anything. He just didn't have the system wasn't in place. He was just making great whiskey and selling it seasonally. And now the operation has grown to be something really special, has maintained its signature taste. But I think that they're just going to have nothing but success going forward.
Yeah. And it's still being made at that location.
Yeah.
It's still, talking about small batch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still made and they can't make large batches of it. I mean, they're definitely growing, but it's exciting and I can't wait to see what Copper Sea does in these next couple of years and continues to grow, and we'll continue to purchase and taste their whiskey.
So Empire Rye, New York's, whiskey, rye whiskey style. We started with Copper Sea. The season's going to be of this show is going to be all about New York whiskeys. And we're very, very glad you're on the journey with us. Our hope is that you're sitting with a drink, watching, talking back to the screen, or at least running around getting ready to go out and drink some whiskey. And maybe you're doing it with someone you love.
Yeah.
Like I am. My brother.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, we're the Balas Brothers, and this is the Whiskey Show.
Cheers.
Hey, I think we should end with our signature slogan that our great-grandfather's brother taught us. They used to say it in the old country. To drink
is to live.
Is to live.